What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck back with you, Buck. What's going on, man?
Man, not too much, DJ. You know, we're at this time of year where we don't have a lot going on, not a lot to talk about. So we're deciding to see if we can rank them and bank them. There's nothing that people enjoy more than lists where we can rank people, rank teams and squad units in order from 1 to 4 by division, and let the Twitter masses go crazy, talking about how we're idiots for putting this team 1, this other team 4, yada, yada, yada. I love that part.
Yeah, I had one comment, which again, I appreciate all of them. It's a good discussion, but one person on Twitter was trying to point out an inconsistency, saying that when it came to the receivers, when we were talking about the NFC North, that we gave the Green Bay Packers the benefit of the doubt for having a lot of depth without stars, but then when it came to the running back position, we lean more towards that lead back, or I said, look, I'm going to go with the best player there. And they said, well, why wouldn't you take the best player philosophy with the receivers? This is inconsistent. To which I replied, comparing a running back to a receiver is not comparable. This is very much apples and oranges. You know what I mean? Like there's literally one running back on the field while we have 3 to 4 wideouts on the field. So depth to me, when you have those receivers, strength in numbers, that matters. And if you can have, there aren't many of them. There's only a few of them. But when you have those lead backs, those big time guys, I mean, that's a good thing to have.
It is a good thing to have. And, it's funny because it's all subjective based on kind of how you view certain parts of the team building landscape, which pieces are essential, which pieces are luxuries. Mm-hmm. Running back versus wide receiver. The wide receivers are more the essential pieces. The running back is more the luxury. So you're not really trying to be as deep in the backfield. You're trying to find that star player that can command a lot of attention. Just depends on how you view it.
Yeah, no doubt. Today we're going to flip over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll do a few of those. We're going to look at the front 7 today. And then we're also going to have a couple more videos coming up this week where we will look at the secondary as well as the coaching staffs of these teams, rank them inside the division. So we will get on the defensive front 7 today. But one thing I want to get to topic-wise before we jump into this one, Buck, was I saw just literally before we came on the trailer for Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants. Now we have the news coming out that Hard Knocks during the year is going to be the 4 AFC North teams. We had the QB series from Netflix where they followed the quarterbacks. Now they have the receiver ones. Which George Kittle cracked that code as well from a tight end position. But I was thinking about that from where it used to be, where you had Hard Knocks and training camp for one team and one team only, to now having all of this information out there. Not to mention so many of these teams and their websites have done behind the scenes stuff. There's more access than ever before. Do you get the sense too now that maybe the leadership in the league, the general managers are a little more new school, a little younger? It seems to be that I think teams aren't freaking out quite as paranoid as maybe they were once upon a time.
No, I don't think so. And I think people also understand it's business. And if it's business, you got to treat it as such. And, the best way to market your team is to let people get a little taste of it. A little behind the scenes access allows you to see what's going on, allows you to kind of learn while falling, I guess, deeper in love with your squad. So I love all these behind the scenes things because I feel like I learned. It's one thing to hear people talk about philosophies and how they want to build a team and a presser. It's another thing to see it in action when they give you the access to kind of see what's happening behind the curtain. So kudos to Hard Knocks. Kudos to the NFL for taking a different approach when it comes to giving the fans and giving us hardcore fans what we want, which is more access, more insight, more opportunities to kind of use those experiences to develop a level of expertise when it comes to building a squad.
Yeah, I think it's great too, because think about all the times that we get asked. We both get asked this in person as well as when people reach out to you on social media. Hey, take us behind the scenes. What really goes on in the draft room? What happens at pro days? What's the process of what it's like in the fall? Like, that's all you can find it. Like, if you want to know what some of these jobs entail, if you want to know what a quality control coach in the NFL actually does, if you want to know what a scout's role is in the draft room, if you want to know how many people are involved in the decision-making process, don't have to take anybody's word for it, man. There's stuff out there now. You can see the shows and the videos, and you can find all the behind-the-scene access that you could ever want. So I think it's cool. I think it's a great way to grow the game. I think for people looking to get involved and want to work in the sport, I think it's an awesome way to kind of see what that life looks like.
Yeah, it is an awesome way. And, it gives us an opportunity to see some of our colleagues, some of our peers in action. It's funny because with the Giants, obviously, Joe Shane being the general manager, Joe Shane and I sat together, sat side by side each other in meetings in Carolina. So to see him kind of grow into the role of being a general manager and to see how is he taking those conversations that we used to have when we both are talking about, man, if I had a chance, here's what I think, to now put it into practice. I'm excited to see that part of it, just knowing JoJo so well.
Yeah, no doubt. I've had many a meal with him on the road over the years, so it's cool to see all these guys we kind of grew up with in those seats and in those roles, and get a chance to see how they're doing their job. So pretty cool. All right, Buck, let's jump into this thing. Let's start in the AFC. Again, we're looking at front sevens here. We're looking at D-line linebackers, grouping them together. So we're going to go 1 through 4. And this first one here is a tough one. As you're looking at this collection of guys that they have, I think it's pretty similar. But we're looking at the AFC East. If you were going to label their front sevens 1, 2, 3, and 4, how would you do it? And just know that the fans are not going to like it, because these are pretty arguable versus some of the other positions we've done where I thought they were pretty cut and dry.
This is one of the toughest ones. Like when we think about front sevens, this one, and I would say even the AFC North after that, it's really tough to rank them. But I'm going to go in order: New York Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, then the Buffalo Bills. The reason why the Jets are number one, I just think when you look at their collection of talent on the front end, they can get after it, man. They can get after it in a variety of ways. They have depth on that side of the ball. The system that they employ really showcases the talent. And they just line up and say, hey, we're better than you. We're just going to whip you at the point of attack. And they've been largely successful doing that. Jermaine Johnson, you think about Quinnen Williams, you think about others that they brought over. And that's not even really included Hassan Reddick because of that situation. They're loaded, man. They're loaded on the front seven. So that's why I have them as the number one squad.
Yeah, I just flipped 2 and 3. So I had the Jets 1. I had the Patriots 2, Dolphins 3. And then at 4, I had Buffalo. And Buffalo, I mean, look, you get Matt Milano back, who, when healthy, is as good a linebacker as we have. So that one, that's still a good group. You can argue those with some of the other ones. But, I mean, that's why I'm with you on the Jets for the reasons you stated. Patriots, to me, over Dolphins. I think the combination of Jalen Phillips coming off injury, plus Chop Robinson being a rookie, I'm excited about him. I think when those guys are healthy and on the field together, let's fast forward maybe a year from now, that can be a dynamic pairing. You got Bradley Chubb coming off of injury. I mean, that's a good group. But to me, with the Patriots, seeing Christian Barmore up close and personal a couple times during his NFL career, seeing him live, I have a healthy respect for how dominant of a football player he is. Matt Judon is like the ageless wonder. And then you've got guys that I think are ascending players. I think Keon White, you're going to see him take a leap. His best football still ahead of him. But that ranking really, to me, was more about the Miami Dolphins losing Christian Wilkins on the inside and the Patriots having a guy in Christian Barmore who's just a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, how do you look at the glass in terms of the injury glass, half full or half empty? And with the Miami Dolphins, both of their top pass rushers are coming off injury, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. That impacts it. If those guys are healthy and coming off the seasons that they had in 2022, I think you would put the Dolphins first. But I'm with you, Judon, Barmore, what they're able to do at the point of attack. Look, the Patriots are right there. I just had the Dolphins just because I'm willing to bank on the pass rushers getting back to form really, really quickly in the season.
All right, you mentioned it. This next one is a difficult one when you look at it here, because when you look at the AFC North and you see the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers, look at those front sevens. There's a lot to like with these teams here. So how do you go? How do you stack them up, Buck?
DJ, it's really tough because someone's going to be offended, and I know that. And when it hits, I'm just going to have to deal with it. But I'm going to go with the Steelers first, the Browns second, the Ravens third, and then the Cincinnati Bengals will be in the caboose position. There's something about the combination of TJ Watt at the point of attack, being able to kind of do his thing and do what he's always been able to do successfully for a long time, that makes me lean towards the Steelers being kind of like the top dog of the bunch. But it's also what they've been able to do. Look, you talk about Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen coming on board, Alex Highsmith when he's able to produce. They're just kind of talented and loaded. So I lean towards them, even though I think you can make an argument for Cleveland, and you almost can make an argument for the Baltimore Ravens based on how successful they've also been.
So did you have it? Let me go through it again. You had Pittsburgh, then you had Cleveland?
Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati.
Yeah, I had it the exact same way. And again, you look at the Bengals, when you have Trey Hendrickson, Pratt and Logan Wilson at the linebacker positions, who are excellent players. And then they've got a lot of solid dudes that they kind of roll through there. I'm excited to see Chris Jenkins, how he gets into the mix here with their defensive front. That's a good group there in Cincinnati to be fourth in the division. But Pittsburgh, let me give you the name here. If you haven't paid attention to him or you didn't notice him last year, remember the name Keanu Benton, because man, he is explosive. He flashed big time last year. But when you have him in the mix, they bring over Patrick Queen, who I think is a great fit for them. They needed to get better there off the ball. You get Peyton Wilson, who I think is going to get a chance to play a lot as a rookie. He would have been a first-round pick if he had clean bill of health at that linebacker spot. You look at the edge rushers. Obviously, T.J. Watt. You could put him right there at the top in this division. You put him and Myles Garrett together. But you've got T.J. Watt. You've got three guys really, because Highsmith, who has a history of production, and then you saw Nick Herbig, who's a nice change of direction, a change of pace, I should say. Rusher coming off the edge who can get underneath you, big time leverage, big time power from him. And you still got the ageless wonders there with Cam Hayward, and you've got Larry Ogunjobi. So I don't know. I really, really like that Pittsburgh group. I think their linebacker position has had a major upgrade over the last couple of years. So I'm with you on them being number one. But man, it's when you look at like Owusu-Koramoah to go along with Myles Garrett, it's pretty darn good too, as well as when you look at Matabike and Roquan Smith. I mean, it's stacked. The whole group, this whole division is stacked in their front sevens.
Yeah, the whole group is stacked. They are loaded. It's almost like being disrespectful to the Baltimore Ravens to have them down at near the bottom of the rankings. But then some of it is like, man, you just respect the job that Mike McDonald did. Some of the smoke and mirrors things that he was able to do to create one-on-one matchups, while acknowledging that they do have significant talent at the point of attack. It's a tough one, man. I think maybe in my own bias, I skew towards the scheme more so than the players when we do that evaluation.
This one, again, last one, we talked about the North, difficult because there's so many established guys. I think when you look at the AFC South, one of the tricky parts of this is you have so many young guys in this mix who are ascending players. So it's almost like, who are you buying on the come up here? But how would you stack the AFC South?
Dude. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm trying not to be biased or jaded, but I am going to go Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Indy. And there's a part of me that really struggled at number one, not putting the Jags up there when I look at Eric Armstead, Josh Allen, and the emergence of Trayvon Walker. That said, Danielle Hunter going to the Houston Texans is a big get for this team. You put him opposite a defensive rookie of the year player in Will Anderson Jr. You think about Ashar Aziz coming over from Tennessee, how Christian Harris has continued to develop, and, just what they're able to do at the point of attack with Danico Archie. This is a really well-constructed unit. The pieces of the puzzle kind of make sense. And when you sprinkle in D'Amico Ryans and how he likes to get after teams from a schematic standpoint, man, it's hard to dispute what the Houston Texans can present.
This is tough, man. All right. This is where I settled on it. I've gone back and forth, and I listened to what you're saying there. But I'm gonna take up your defense as a homer here, because I'm gonna go with Jacksonville 1. I'm gonna go Houston 2. I'll go Indy 3 and Tennessee 4. But Tennessee Indy was a tough one for me because I have a healthy respect for Jeffrey Simmons and what he brings to the table. Curious to see how Devondre Sweat mixes in there and he stay in shape. If he does, that's going to be somebody can eat some blocks and allow Jeffrey Simmons to really, really go to work. You've got Harold Landry, who's got a lot of production. Kenneth Murray, who I've seen a lot of. I've actually seen every single game he's played coming over from the Chargers. I thought the light came on for him a little bit last year. Always been big, physical, and fast. I thought the game slowed down for him a little bit last year. So I think he's an ascending young player So that's Tennessee. They're the 4 hole. But Jacksonville, to me, you see them every week. You know them extremely well. But Josh Allen, you've got a number 1 rusher. You look at Walker on the other side, who I still see as an ascending player who took a big leap forward last year. I think he's got Pro Bowl ability there on the opposite side. They can set the edge in the run game as well. Oluokan's done nothing but make tackles since he entered into the league. And then you bring in Eric Armstead. That's just they are big and they are long and they're very athletic. So I'm on the Jags. Houston, you mentioned them a bunch. Curious to see what you get with Danielle Hunter fitting into that scheme. But I do love the young linebackers there. Christian Harris is a stud, and then Henry Toto. I'm excited to see what he does as he gets into his second year. So a big fan of their group as well. And then Indy, I mean, you got DeForest Buckner, who's a perennial Pro Bowler. You've got Ebukam, who gives you a fastball off the edge. You bring in Latu with Kwity Paye. Those are 2 young, really good rushers. Again, there's a lot of ascending players. I think of the divisions that we're going through, I feel like this division has a lot of good young players that I think are only going to get better over the next year.
DJ, it's not only good young players all over the spot, it's good young quarterbacks. And so you have to build your defense to defend the quarterbacks that are in the division. People will talk about CJ Stroud, then, maybe the reemergence of Trevor Lawrence is a guy that can be in the top 10, the unknown in Will Levis, and then Anthony Richardson. And you have to have defenses that can deal with the speed and the talent that those quarterbacks can present in their unique offenses. This is going to be a fun division to watch. It's going to be a fun division to keep track of. And you're right. The front sevens within this division are intriguing because they have that combination of speed, size, strength, the physicality that allows them to play with force and finesse. You like all those things from these well-constructed front sevens.
No question. I think this next one, when we get to the AFC West, I'm confident we're going to have the same order here. I think we're going to be on the same page. Don't know what you have, but this is the one of all the divisions. I feel like we're going to be lined up here. Go ahead here. Let's go AFC West. 1, 2, 3, 4 front sevens.
Ooh, DJ. Now this is another good one because it depends on how do you value the players. Do you value stars or do you value like 1 star and like a healthy rotation with really good young players that can do it? But I'm gonna go with star power in this one. So I'm going Vegas, Kansas City, Chargers, and then the Denver Broncos. And the thing that pushes Vegas over the top for me is the combination of Max Crosby teaming up with Christian Wilkins and all of the conversation that is coming out of Vegas in terms of how these guys are pushing one another. Ultra competitive players, guys that are kind of in early, stay late, kind of getting it done, really setting the tone for the program under Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham. So I'm going with the Raiders right there as kings of the hill in the AFC West.
Well, I was wrong. I thought we would be identical, Buck. I was wrong. I flipped 1 and 2. I had KC 1, Vegas 2, Chargers 3, Broncos 4. So just one slight difference there. The reason being, look, you can't dispute when you have Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, that is a deadly combination of 1-2 punch there. I just think when you take the entirety of the front seven, and now I get Chris Jones, who's a star, and now to me, I think Mike Dan is an underrated player, is a really good player. But you get to the next level with Nick Bolton, who is an elite linebacker. I can make a case playing as well as anybody as an off-the-ball linebacker. Leo Chenal, who really came on last year. Drew Tranquill, who was a godsend for them coming over from the Chargers, who's a really good player against the run and the pass. Their linebackers are excellent. And then you get Karlaftis, who's still a young ascending player. They've got some other nice pieces there. Derek Notty's really reliable inside. I just think, to me, I went with the depth a little bit more there with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders have those 2 studs. I don't think they're quite as good at the linebacker position as KC. And then the Chargers, man, you get the 1-2 punch, no question. When you look at Mac, the year he's coming off of, Bosa just needs to stay healthy. But that's as good as it gets there with that, combination coming off the edge. And then they're going to rely on some new pieces there. You've got the young linebackers there between Deion Henley, Nick Neiman, and Junior Colson, who's the rookie. One of those 3 has got to step up alongside Denzel Perriman to lock down that linebacker role. And then on the inside, you get a little penetration with Morgan Fox, as well as, kind of more workman-like guys there with Tito Abonia and Puna Ford coming in there to join their group. So that's why I have them 3. And then 4 with the Denver Broncos. Look, that bring over John Franklin Myers, who they got for next to nothing, who's a good player with the Jets. Baron Browning's always been kind of a flash player who's intriguing. Jonathan Cooper, again, another young, intriguing player. I just think when you look at the kind of the star power, the leading man, so to speak, I don't know that they have that. Zach Allen's a good player. DJ Jones is a good player. But I don't think they have anybody on the level of some of these other guys of these other teams.
Yeah, it's funny. It's good, not great in terms of the talent. And there's great talent at other, look amongst the front lines of the other teams within the division. So it kind of leaves them from behind. But another division that is going to be interesting, because as you're building your team, and I think it's really clear and apparent that people are really investing in the front seven, because in the AFC in particular, DJ, the murderer's row of quarterbacks that you have to face to get out of the AFC, you have no choice but to spend all your resources on defense to try and give yourself a chance to get past some of these guys.
No question. That's why it's a cat and mouse game, right? You've got these big time quarterbacks, and you see these teams that have invested heavily in their front seven, particularly in their pass rush. So interesting to see how that all shakes out. All right, that's the AFC. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we will knock out the NFC right after this. All right, Buck, let's get to the NFC East as we switch conferences here. Again, front seven, we are going 1 through 4. How would you break it down with those teams?
This was a lot tougher than I thought it would be when I initially got the assignment. But I'm gonna go with Philadelphia first, the New York Giants second, the Dallas Cowboys third, then the Washington Commanders fourth. And the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants, to me, comes down to just the production and the anticipated production of what they have up front. So the production on the edges, Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat, guys that can really get after it. The anticipated production of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on the inside. And then the X factor that really pushes it over the top is Devin White. I think people have forgotten how good Devin White was a couple years ago. I know he had the contract squabble that I believe impacted his play. But, man, a couple seasons ago, this dude was all over, DJ. He was a guy that we celebrated as a pass-rushing interior linebacker. When you put him on this defense, he has a chance to get back to that. And I think with Vic Fangio, man, it's the right coach for him to really unlock his talents. That's why I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, that's that's where I thought I would end up going there. Just when you really dig in and look at them, though, I ended up going with the Giants one, which I didn't anticipate I would do that. But to me, when I just go through it and I look at Bobby Okereke, I know he changed the way he pronounces that. I hope I didn't do him any disservice there. But who is long and rangy and a really good linebacker that they got from Indianapolis. Micah McFadden, who's been very productive throughout his career, young career there at the linebacker level. And then you look at, you bring over Burns. You've got Thibodeau. That's a nice edge rusher duo there with Burns, obviously with a ton of production. Thibodeau has been really good as a young player. And then Dexter, your dad's guy, your dad coached him in high school, big Dexter. He's the X factor there. To me, I trust Dexter, and I've seen it consistently with Dexter more than I have with the Eagles' young guys. I think Jalen Carter's got a ton of ability. Jordan Davis has been a disappointment. But to me, Dexter is the X factor there for me to go with the Giants at 1. Then I ended up going with the Cowboys 3 and the Commanders there at 4.
Yeah, it's a really good conversation. And for all the people that have kind of like poo-pooed on the New York Giants, a lot of it is kind of being like, this team is terrible. They don't have talent. 2 years ago, this team was in the playoffs. Yeah. And I think the fall off, it was dramatic, but it also coincided with Daniel Jones being hurt. This team can find a way to get it done. You have question marks with Wink Martindale not being there, a new approach defensively. But, man, maybe you can sit back and just let the big four up front eat. And if Kayvon Thibodeau continues to build upon what he's displayed, you have him and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. That's 3 blue chip players that you have on the front line. You should be able to win at the line of scrimmage, and that should give your team an opportunity to win games in the end.
It's kind of interesting when you look and you go through these exercises. It does surprise you a little bit when you look at the collection of talent some of these teams have. And you're like, man, maybe we're undervaluing them a little bit here, expectation-wise there with the New York Giants. How about the NFC North, Buck?
Tough one, DJ. Really, really tough because there's so many different ways that you can go about it. I think for me, I am going to go with, look, it's crazy because there were so many questions about the Packers after they made the move. But I'm going to go with the Packers first. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions second, Chicago Bears third, and then I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings pulling up the rear with fourth.
Yep, I went with the exact same order. It's funny when you go through and look at this. I think the Packers, we're finding a theme with them as we go through all these different positions, where maybe you can't pull out that big time star, but I'll tell you what, man, Goody and Milt Hendrickson, their front office has done a really good job of building out the depth. They have waves and waves of guys they can throw at you. So that to me is a reason why I go Packers 1, Lions 2, Bears 3, and come in with Minnesota at 4. Minnesota, they at least feel on paper like one of the more lopsided teams just when you look at the offensive personnel and the defensive personnel.
Yeah, I mean, they do feel like they are a little lopsided because all I won't even say all the money, but yeah, all the talent kind of tips in their favor. I don't know. I just know Brian Flores does a really good job of making it work with what he has, and so maybe that's the luxury that you have in Minnesota. The coaching is so good that you can kind of mix and match some of the pieces where it's not exactly what it is on offense, but you still find a way to get the production. Year 2 in his system, that aggressive blitz zero stuff today used to confound and confuse quarterbacks, gives them a chance to be good, even though we're saying that they may not have all the blue chip talent that you need to have to compete at a championship level.
I will say too, the Bears, Montez Sweat, one player transformed that entire, not only front seven, but that entire defense.
Unbelievable what
he made it go.
Yeah, unbelievable what he was able to do in terms of just bringing the energy, adding something to it. They invested in the guy at the trade deadline, and then it gave him an extension. And he has been exactly as advertised. And so you feel great about that part of it. And look, I would expect them to continue to be a team that gives people problems.
All right, NFC South.
This is tricky, right? Because I don't know if it like you have high level defenses in that, but I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, and then the Atlanta Falcons bringing up the rear. And I will say this, like I can't say that there's a group that really separates itself from the rest of the pack. I went with the Buccaneers more so because of, look, Vita Vea in the point of attack, Levante David, you know what you're getting. If you haven't paid attention, Yaya Diaby is an interesting player.
Yeah, he's got juice.
Level. So I'm going with them, and that's without them even unlocking Kalaji Kancey, who was a first-round pick for them a season ago.
So I did the exact same order, Buck, but I will say this. Talk about the team that's fourth here. There's a lot riding on rookies in this front seven with the Atlanta Falcons. If they hit on this class, not only are they going to be, much better than we're giving credit for right now, but they're set up to have a nice run because we know what the offense is. But when you look at the defense here, look at these rookies that they've got here. You've got Ruko Rororo from Clemson, second-round pick. You've got Brandon Dorlus, who I really liked out of Oregon. He's a fourth-round pick. Those guys up front. Then you look at the linebacker position. You've got J.D. Bertrand, who was a fifth-round pick off the ball. Then you've got another edge rusher there in Braylon Trice, who was a third-round pick. So they've got 4 top 5-round picks in their front seven as rookies right now. And they've got, they have some solid pieces up front right now. But if they could get one of those guys to be a difference maker, like a really, really good, like a potentially a blue level player, and then one or two more end up being solid guys, that transforms their front seven. It transforms their defense. And now with Kirk Cousins in that offense, this is a team we could see, really, really go on a run, not just win the division, but maybe be a dangerous team in the NFC. But man, that's a lot of rookies that I think have to find their way onto the field and make an impact.
I know a lot of rookies, a lot of people that you count on that are still kind of unknowns because you just haven't seen them, and you're saying, hey, this guy's going to come right from college to the pros and make an impact right away. That's not the traditional path and trajectory of an elite defense, but we'll see. Maybe those guys surprise and find a way to kind of get it done.
All right, we're pushing up against the clock here, so we got to jam through the West here, the NFC West. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you got?
Okay, I'm staying with the old guard: San Francisco, Seattle, the LA Rams, and the Arizona Cardinals. The battle between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, to me, is really interesting because I think Mike McDonald helps them close the gap. He helps them close the gap because of the work that we saw him do in Baltimore to turn guys like Calvin Noy and the very disruptive and functional players. He has a better collection of talent at his disposal in Seattle. You just think about what they already had in terms of the players that were coming back. I don't think people paid attention to what Boye Mafi was doing. Leonard Williams being a disruptive dude at the point of attack. And then DJ, getting Byron Murphy, being able to get him in the first round to throw him in the mix. And look, you know it because you've seen Chinua Nwosu before up close and personal when he's with like they have some really good players. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he unlocks these guys in a different style of defense after watching what Pete Carroll was able to do for a long time. This will be different, but I think they can be just as impactful as those Legion of Booms teams were.
Yeah, I like their group. I ended up actually having them 3, though. I had San Francisco, Rams, Seattle, Arizona.
Ooh, okay.
So I changed it up a little bit there. And I hear what you're saying on Seattle, and I love Coach McDonald, the scheme that they're going to run. They've got good pieces. I ended up going the Rams over them for the reason that I feel like this is kind of a sum is greater than the individual parts. And I feel like this is kind of a no-name type defense that unless you really watch them, and you saw last year with the young guys, you saw Kobe Turner. They had he had like 9 sacks. I mean, he was the best rookie rusher, really. And then now you add in the 2 Florida State kids and Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. I like both those guys. I think they add some temperament and some personality there to that front. And then off the ball, I look, Ernest Jones, a really good player. Byron Young, was a rookie last year as well, coming off the edge, who I think those are the two, you look at production, sack-wise, rookie-wise, that's as good as it gets. So they've got a bunch of young, hungry, athletic, talented guys in their front 7. So I would say if you're going to say right now, maybe Seattle's a little bit ahead of them. But I think over the course of the year, I think that the Rams, all these young players, that teaching staff that they have there, I think you're going to see a really, really surprisingly good defense in a front 7 here with the Rams.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on, new defensive coordinator. Chris Shula takes over as defensive coordinator for Raheem Morris. Raheem and Jimmy Lake, they were able to solve a lot of problems behind the scenes to make sure these young guys play well. So it'll be a new voice at the front of the room. And how do they respond to the new voice? But more importantly, how do they respond to maybe different tactics that may be utilized to answer some of the problems that pop up? I like the youth, the athleticism. You're right about them being a bit of a no-name, unheralded defense that played better than we thought when we added up all the sum of the individual parts.
Yep, and then we'll see what happens with Arizona. I think, look, Jonathan Gannon did a good job getting those guys playing hard. They've added some pieces there. Darius Robinson's a good rookie. Excited to see him play, but I think when you stack them up in the division talent-wise, they're still chasing those other 3 teams. All right, that is going to do it for us today. That was the front 7 rankings. We made it through the AFC. We made it through the NFC. Buck, I know we've got busy schedules. We've got to scoot, so we got to wrap this one. But this was a fun exercise, and we'll be back to knock out the secondaries and the head coaches here. A couple more episodes coming your way. Anything you want to add before we jump out of here?
No, it was really fun. DJ, we talked about it, like being able to win at the line of scrimmage, particularly on defense. That's the way they have to get it done. Some really intriguing and well-constructed front 7s that we just discussed all day.
There you go. That's it. That's going to do it for us. So we appreciate you hanging with us, and we'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.